Hey, it's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rowan University.
And I'm Jessica Kennedy, also a two-time Rowan alum. And you're listening to
Beyond the Brown and Gold.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
On today's show, we have alumnus Matt Morgan, class of 2006. Matt was an electrical and computer engineering major.
He really undersold that piece of his, life. That's really hard.
I know, it is really hard.
He was like, we were in the 90s and I decided to just start the computer craze and get into electrical engineering. Oh yeah, me too.
No big deal. Matt has a master's in systems engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. He's worked for the Department of Defense Civilian at Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst for basically since he left Rowan.
Yeah, he detailed how that all went down.
We get into all kinds of fun things. Matt's love for board games, how he's turned that into a fun side venture, his family, and how he met his prof sweetheart here at Rowan. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today from Hightstown. Did you grow up in that area?
No, I grew up in Matawan and mostly Old Bridge.
Okay.
Kind of lived all over the state later in life, but grew up right in the middle of the state there.
Love it.
And what brought you down here to Rowan? Because we're not up there,
Well, I didn't want to go too close to home, so Rutgers was right out, and I really didn't want the get on a bus, drive around campus type feel.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I kind of weirdly had a long perspective in life. I didn't realize that was weird until my 30s. I'm like, oh, teenagers don't think like that. But I was.
What does that mean? But what does that mean, though?
I was very concerned about college debt.
Wow.
Oh, no, that's
so
great,
I was
though.
applying to, we'll say, more expensive schools.
Okay.
And Rowan was offering scholarships, and they had the engineering school that was very up and coming, new at the time, still great. So Rowan was the obvious choice for me. I said, well, I'm going to pay $60,000 to go to Lehigh.
Yeah.
Who had accepted me, and it was a fun campus and all. And I said, but Rowan is really fun. It's maybe 90 minutes away. It's the right amount of distance. Don't
Agreed.
be too close to the family, but you can go back, and it's free. And, pretty
Did you
easy
get a
math
scholarship
at
to
that.
come here?
Yeah. Just
Okay.
based off of GPA, SAT score.
When you're getting offers to Lehigh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, my guidance counselor was pushing me towards maybe you could squeak into Cornell Ivy League if you early admission. I was like, no. I was good in high school, but I was not Ivy League good. So I didn't take that offer. But based on the strength of the engineering school, I was like, Rowan seems like a really good place to be.
An obvious choice when it's not $60,000 a year to attend, right?
Yes.
I'm glad you said that, though, because I think there's a lot of some value in understanding that, right? I think adults obviously get that, but I don't know
think
that
I
so
had
many
a
students.
clue what college costs.
Right?
Yeah. Not
And
at
so
all.
many, I think more young people these days are more sensitive to the prices than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's only continued to grow. It was growing even as I was here. 20 years ago, we were dealing with double-digit price increases, which weren't covered by the scholarship was flat. So as the cost grew every year, here's a bill, buddy.
So you came in as an engineering major.
Yes.
So what had you decide to pursue that path?
It was just the thing you did if you were nerdy and into computers. I guess growing up in the late 90s, that was the pinnacle of helping old people with their computers. Mm-hmm. So maybe I didn't put too much thought into that one. I was like, oh, electrical and computer engineering, that sounds like a pretty broad topic. Let's just do that.
It's also very difficult, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but
let's just do that.
You know what I mean? All the engineering disciplines, obviously, that is, to my understanding, I'm not an engineer. I don't play one on the weekends either. But that's a hard one to get into and to stay in, right? Because oftentimes some students struggle in that space, and then we kind of suggest and move and nurture them to maybe other pastures.
It was brutal. I remember feeling like I was in crisis my first semester. I didn't have AP calculus in high school. Like I said, I was smart, but I was not that. was not calculus level high school smart. So all of the other kids, me and one other person, hadn't done high school calculus. And I was just thrown into it. And they all knew what they were doing already. So it was easy A. And it was hard all throughout. The graduating class for that, I graduated in 2006, and it was electrical and computer engineering. We had single-digit number of people who made it through.
Wow. Yeah, it's
I think
hard.
Some
it's hard.
of those were 5-year plan folks. So there was, I remember that one of the deans was like, what happened to your class that like barely anybody made it through? And yeah, it all worked out. I
Sounds like a
managed to
good
get
question
through.
that Dean could be talking about within the college.
So I'm going to write that down as the lost generation, right? We're going to
Pretty
put that
much.
down, right?
So did you stay close? Like, whereas your kind of like cohort super close at the end because you were like so few of you kind of went through the program together?
I have no idea what happened to any of
No, you really don't, huh?
No, I
thought they would form some bonds there.
know.
Like some.
trust me, I slept in the engineering building on several occasions. There was so much work to do, but most of my social life was in other activities and in clubs and organizations around campus. Like we didn't stick together as a social group, the engineers, although I'm sure plenty of them do. It just wasn't a thing for us. Maybe we were traumatized by
Well,
the
it sounds like
difficulty
it.
of
It sounds like it. Was there at any point in your, newness to the program or year 2, maybe they said, maybe I should scratch a different itch?
I talked to someone about switching to mechanical engineering when I was a sophomore.
Okay.
And is
they
that
talked me
quote
out of it.
easier than?
Yeah. Look, you're talking to communication majors,
Yeah,
right?
two
So
communication
it's
majors
like,
Shades, like just very, very minorly easier. I would not categorize it as all that different.
Right.
It's still really hard.
But you thought, let me see if that could be an escape.
nothing easier came to mind. I don't know, like
Don't-
pottery or like, I
I was
don't
going
know.
to say,
like-
don't talk bad about us communication.
No.
majors.
Notice I went to somewhere else.
Okay,
I didn't
good.
say anything about us. Nothing else, huh?
No, never considered bouncing completely out of engineering, but another bad grade might have pushed me over the edge.
Let's talk about some of the other activities that you participated in while you were here. What is maybe the most profound activity you remember being involved in?
The biggest one was like student government and Greek life later in college. I got very involved in those. But I started right here in this building. I was part of RTN
Okay.
pretty heavily as a freshman. Then I sort of trailed off, just kind of stayed involved in it in a little bit. But I wound up joining a fraternity in my sophomore year and then also running for student government. As I got later into college, I was the VP of the SGA at the same time as I was the Greek Council president.
Oh,
So
you weren't too
senior
busy.
year was really interesting.
Yeah, you were balancing an engineering degree and all those fun extracurriculars and you weren't just involved, you were like super involved at a high level involved in those things.
Yeah, well, junior year was definitely the hardest year for the engineers. So at least senior year, the edge comes off a little bit. And
Okay.
then I took those positions within those groups.
Did you have something set up for post graduation? Like when you were walking during commencement, did you kind of know what was next?
Yeah, that helped a lot. If I was job hunting, I probably wouldn't have done all these things my junior and senior year. But I remember being a sophomore and thinking I should try to get an internship. And usually with the technical fields, they want you to have done your junior year so you actually know something.
Yep,
Okay.
coming in, yeah.
First 2 years are more general education, technical stuff. But there was a program through the Navy, civilian Navy, not military enlisted or anything. But I read the fine print on it, and it listed just a handful of schools that were eligible to participate in this program. I said, wow, those are really good odds. Like Rowan is, I think, the only school in New Jersey that was qualified to send their engineering students to it.
Wow.
There was like 2 in Philly, like Drexel and Villanova, I think. So I was like, wow, I got like 3 schools in the region. Let me throw my hat in the ring. And I applied, and I remember getting a call from the naval shipyard over in Philly, and they talked to me for like 5 minutes, like, this kid doesn't know anything.
Oh,
I
no.
got a phone call. So I thought it was done. And then like a month before the summer started, I got a call from Lakehurst, New Jersey, right in the center of the state up there. They have naval aviation, and they interviewed me, and they said, yeah, actually, we think we got something for you. And I came in, it was more like electronics technician type work because they knew I was only a sophomore, but I was doing a lot of assembly, like soldering circuit boards and stuff. Came back to junior year. It was like a superpower. I was like, I've done this stuff before. And then I went back to them after junior year, did a more involved technical internship. And the department manager there on the way out the door shook my hand and said, just call this number when you want your full-time job and we'll have it waiting for you.
What?
And I think I went to one career fair early in my senior year, and wow, the process of it and like it just was daunting. And I said, I really liked my 2 summers up at that Navy base. And you know what? Senior year, I'm never going to have this time in my life again. Mm-hmm. And I just walked out of the career fair and went back to having fun. And I said, I'll just call that number in May. And I just enjoyed my senior year, not worrying about a job.
Let's not have all seniors do that plan, or juniors. You know what I mean?
Only if they have something.
Only if they have something in hand
sure.
there.
Yes.
But now let me ask you, as we circle back to some of the one organization you were involved here on the campus. You said you were involved in the RTN. Some folks don't know what that is, right? So it's the Rowan Television Network.
Yep.
What was that outlet for? Was that more of a technical piece, or was there a little creative side to Matt that wanted to come out?
I just like getting involved in stuff. I don't know. Structured socialization is easier than making friends just walking down the street.
We just became best friends.
But I was always kind of into that. Like I was the kid in high school who had the camcorder. It was never going to be my career, but it was cool volunteering for the TV station, getting to work cameras and stuff. They would have us go out and film events around campus in like the auditorium. So I'd get to see a lot of interesting things I probably wouldn't have dragged myself out of the dorm room to go see. I remember there was it was an embarrassing story. I remember there was like an Asian cultural festival in Wilson Hall, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I never would have went to it on my own. And then we got back and I handed the tapes in. It's like, oh, you never turned the microphone switch on the camera, so all we got was video.
Oh,
well, B-roll.
Yeah, right. I'm sure it looked gorgeous.
I was just too wowed by it.
Yeah.
Didn't press the right buttons.
Now, you also, I read a little bit about you met your wife while you were here. We call couples that met while they were here prof sweethearts. So I love to hear a prof sweetheart story. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met your wife?
Can you please say that she was at this Asian cultural festival? Because that would make even a better story.
Yeah, it would be like connecting all the dots.
No, she was not at the Asian Cultural Festival.
Okay. All right.
So her maiden name at the time was Nicole Smizik. She was a member of a sorority, and I met her through that, actually, right when I was joining. I was in Alpha Chi Rho, and she was in Theta Phi Alpha.
They like paired up a lot.
Pretty often, yeah.
Yeah.
But we just met very early on when I was joining. She was a year older than me and the president of the sorority at the time.
Oh, wow.
So I consider myself lucky that she gave me the time of day and that even talked to me. We were friends for a while, and then it just turned into one of those like dating your friend type things. And we were engaged before we got out of college.
Wow, that's
Which is
quick.
I know, poor Rob's having a epic meltdown in his brain. Rob can't commit to that thought, even that thought
It doesn't
process.
make any sense, does it?
But that's unusual for the time that you graduate. Like when we talk to our golden profs, like our graduates of 50 or more years, it's super, super common that they're engaged or even married before they left their college experience. So it's pretty unusual to have been engaged that young. What was that like? Were people like, wait, what? Y'all are
especially
engaged?
you're both in a fraternity.
Can you still come to this
sorority?
Greek party?
Right, yeah.
I think one other couple in the Greek life circle had gotten engaged at that point, so it wasn't a huge shock. Maybe everyone's doing it. Let's just go buy diamond rings.
Wow.
But no, it was definitely a surprise. We did it at the formal event for the fraternity.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a big moment.
In the house, or what do we do?
No.
You want to walk us through this?
Was it by the
Let's just
kegs?
go to the
I was going to say
Wyndham.
red Solo cups, or what do we have?
Up at like exit 4, they would rent the Wyndham. I'm surprised if they still let us back there at this point. It's been a long time.
Wait, is this true?
Oh yeah, they rent out the ballroom at the hotel up there, and
Okay, so it's
and
fancy.
hopefully the hotel
It wasn't
would
like a house
emerge in
party.
one
That's what I was
piece.
wondering.
Oh yeah, you dress up. They take a shuttle bus up there, so it was a big event. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe looking back on it, going to a college, I think it was 40% man, 60% woman. I guess the odds worked out in my favor for the the nerdy engineer.
And what did your wife study while she was here?
She was communications major.
See?
See, that's why we're getting along so well.
Yeah.
She went on to have a really good career in television, actually.
Get out.
Worked in a lot of reality TV as a line producer. Emmy nominated. She worked with Lydia Bastianich, the chef.
Okay.
And then, late 30s, decided, very stressful career life. She wound up getting a really interesting job with like an industrial supplier doing their like accounting and all that sort of stuff. All the soft skills of doing back end production management is translated really well. So easy commute, working from home, not people calling you at 2 a.m. for the TV shoot.
Yeah, that's tough. Now, how long after you all graduated did you get married?
We got married in 2007.
Okay. Oh, quick.
Yeah.
Matt, you don't slow down, man.
We had one child, Sarah. We had her in June of 2011.
Okay.
And I don't think we knew another person who had a child for 6 more years after that.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah. We
Because
missed
people
out
are probably
on
like just getting married then.
Yeah, we missed out on the whole having kids at the same time as your friends experience. We were the couple with a child.
Yeah.
But
now all your friends with kids are jealous,
yes,
right?
We will be 45-year-old empty nesters.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is
crazy.
wild.
We have friends that went through the radio station here, Jimmy, and they got married super young, and they have I think their kids are like 10 and 12, and it blows my mind because I'm like, I have a 3, like my youngest just turned 3 yesterday. So I'm like, oh my gosh, to have a 12-year-old, what would that be like? So it's kind of nice that you're going to have that.
It feels nice to be on the back half of things. I got to tell you, like I said, long-term perspective. If there's a child drama in the house, I over at Nicole. I said, 5 more years. She's like, you're horrible.
Oh.
And will she be coming?
That was the next question. We coming to RU?
So we did actually visit the campus.
Okay.
Long story short, middle school is tough. She had a bad day once, and I said, you know what? Let me show you what life will be like in 5 or 6 years here. We're taking the day off, and we're just going to go as a family, visit the place Mommy and Daddy went to college.
Yeah.
And we walked around campus. I had been a few years. I'm sure every alumni says, oh my God, how much it has changed.
Yeah.
So we were kind of eager to see that too. And she had a great time.
That's awesome.
So,
I love
knows?
that you took care of her. You're like, hey, it's not, it gets better.
And is she thinking that
Are we in the running?
Are we in the running here? What
if
are we
you
doing
ask
here?
her now, she says, absolutely, that's where I'm going.
Oh,
I
love
hate
it.
to put that pressure on a kid, so
okay.
I'm not going to
Okay. You
bring
said
it
her
up
name
a
was
whole
Are you
Sarah,
seeing,
right?
Are you seeing early?
Sarah, you could
are you
come or
seeing,
not?
Yeah, Sarah, you don't have to come here, but you should come here.
Exactly.
If you want to make your parents happy, you'll do this for them,
It's
Sarah.
an
And save
affordable state
money.
school with
It's an
good
affordable
degrees.
state school. Yeah.
Take good care of you. You'll have fun.
Is she giving indications of what she's interested in?
She wants to be a voice actor.
Okay. All right.
I took some voice classes. They were some of my favorite
did?
classes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I said I wanted to be either a surgeon or the person who worked at the VHS rental store. So
Wow, totally different.
We're in the mix.
I'm also not holding her to anything she says
All
about
right.
what
That's,
she wants
that's
to be
true.
when
Yeah.
she's older.
Yeah.
fair
VHS kind of went out. That would have been a bad career choice for you.
So professionally,
bullet.
professionally, where did your life take you post Rowan?
So I
the
have
Navy Yard?
stayed with Naval Aviation up at Lakehurst for 18 years now. So that was a really interesting career. It continues to be one. I've done really well there. Moved up into various positions. I've managed to stay technical instead of kind of sliding into people management, which is always
tough.
the dream of the engineer is to get the promotion without having to switch over to just being a manager. So now I'm more of a technologist, looking at what is up and coming, writing research grant proposals, helping work those proposals if we get the research projects. So it's really interesting. The last thing I sort of had publicly published was about converting some of our aircraft support vehicles to hybrids and electric vehicles. So it's interesting work. And, I have a 35-minute commute,
That's not bad.
stable job. Again, with looking at the long term, I always worried about going into a technical degree. What happens when you lose your touch? If I don't know the latest programming language when I'm 50 years old, am I going to get laid off? And I know that going into that federal government career was more stable, that I could easily pivot into, say, program management or being a people manager if I really needed to. I wouldn't get shown the door.
Also, if you're using, I have to imagine that if you're using the technology on the regular, then transitioning to newer technology is a little bit easier of a go rather than like, I don't work with technology at all. And now I'm, later in my career and now I'm given, something technical to manage. I feel like that's more difficult. But if you're living in it and breathing it, you don't have to. Also, 50's not old.
No. Thank you,
I know
Jess.
you're going to be an empty nester in like a hot minute, but 50's super young.
Now, are you using any of that calculus that you started in back in the day?
No, there's a funny story they will tell at work that when I was there for about a year, I was doing a lot of proposal writing and things of that nature rather than like hard math or programming. And I asked one of the guys who'd been there a few years, I said, I'm just concerned. Like, I haven't done any calculus. And I think I regretted those words the moment I said them. And he said, come with me. And he walked me down to the supervisor's office and said, tell him what you told me. I said, well, I've been here a year and I haven't had to use any like real math like calculus. And he just laughed, reared his head back and laughed harder than I've heard anyone laugh in my life. And he's like, don't worry, kid, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
wow.
I had to ask that question because I'm currently in the calculus class. I'm sorry, math people. I don't see any application to this in my life, but that's okay. I don't think it's
maybe not what you're going to do.
Not what I'm going to do. But if this guy's not using it, I'm not using it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no choice that's the chance that's going to happen.
There's a time and a place. But
there's a time and a place, but it's probably not going to happen, is it? You know what I mean? Like that technical side, I really appreciate, but whatever.
I wouldn't bet on it.
No. Yeah. So have you stayed in touch with any of the professors here that the non-calculus professors maybe that you connected with here?
No, I really haven't gone back to engineering school, any of those alumni meetups or anything.
Got to get you here.
Like I mentioned, it was a very tough time.
I know.
He's got a little PTSD. He's like, I don't think I can come back.
Yeah, but I always read the magazine and such. And after having visited the campus for the first time in a very long time, when the email came out, it said, we do this podcast. I said, you know what? Sure. I've had an interesting life post-graduation. I did a lot when I was here. Come talk to people.
I think the interesting part, we always highlight on the growth, spatially of the campus, the new buildings and such like that, but also the growth of the programs themselves, because a lot of these schools now, and somewhat similar to your story, they've also grown the career paths, right? So it's so much, I want to say it's easier, but there's much more of a formal process and a pipeline for students to go from Rowan University right into industry, which maybe didn't exist when the three of us were here, which I think is a great opportunity for students.
Honestly, I wouldn't even have known if it existed. I was so not even taking advantage of all the things that Rowan had to offer. I'm sure it had those things, but I don't even think I would have.
I just think they've evolved it and been more like intentional about creating those opportunities for students, which is very cool.
Yeah, I mean, every time I drive past, there's a new sign with a new degree. Like I passed the veterinary school.
Yeah.
I never expected that to be added to Rowan, but it sounds awesome.
Maybe it's a good opportunity for Sarah.
Yeah, right. Does Sarah like pets?
Perhaps. Yeah, we have a dog.
You have a dog. We learned the dog name is Seamus.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is that, by the way? We see in your picture bio.
He is mostly a Jack Russell Terrier and Beagle mix, but he's got a whole lot of whatever in him. We did the whole DNA test thing.
Oh yeah. Did he have to spit in a tube?
Yeah.
They swapped.
Did you hear me say wait? I was like,
He's
wait.
very well trained.
Really? Oh my gosh, you guys are ahead of your time.
Now tell us about some of the other things that you've done. So you've obviously worked for the Naval Academy for a while, but you have some really other cool activities that you've participated in over the years, volunteer and otherwise. Talk to us about some of those things that you're doing when you're not doing work.
Yeah, like I said, we moved around the state a bunch after we graduated. We were living in Jackson for a while, and I was a volunteer firefighter there for a year. It was a real interesting experience, but then we moved and, just decided not to join up and continue that because we were renting somewhere else, and I didn't know where we'd plant our roots. Around 2010, I think, I started doing freelance writing. There was a fellow alumni, actually, Brandon Werner, who was on student government with me. He was a PR guy, and he had started a blog. It was like 2008, and he just needed people to write to start this website. And I was writing a column for him about like cutting the cord and not paying for a cable bill anymore. And
Can you teach me how to do that?
It just sort of
Still
spun
struggling.
into freelance writing.
Okay.
I realized there was a cool trade show happening in New York City. It was like the Toy Fair, this huge event, industry exclusive. You can't just walk in and buy a ticket. I was like, wait a minute, I have this blog that I'm writing for, and I pumped out 3 reviews of like random board games because that was a hobby of mine, still is. And they're like, yeah, sure, here's a press pass. I was like, wait, you can just do that?
They're like, let me write something else. Hey, can we get press passes?
We should try.
I know. What can we go to that's fun that we can?
Anything?
Okay. Like a concert or something?
We should try it. Why not? Springsteen's coming.
Okay.
I'm sure there won't be any security. They'll be like, oh, these 3 guys, you have headphones on. It'll be fine. Come on in.
Perfect. Have headphones and a lanyard. Come right in.
So let me jump in here. Then I got a question. Board games are a thing. Mm-hmm. We got to find out. Favorite board games?
Well,
Top three. Give me your 3 now, Matt.
I'm horrible with favorites.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
We'll say there's a board game called Small World. That was always a favorite of mine. And I'll name 2 others.
What's the premise of Small World?
Just people fighting on a map, but it's more like fantasy themed.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting board and card games coming out of Japan and Indonesia and Taiwan. Big Asian game design scene there. So I throw out 2 names, Rumble Nation and Nikosu Dice. This is real obscure nerdy stuff. Like,
I was not expecting that. I was expecting like Candyland or Monopoly. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to come down the Gumdrop Rainbow with him or something like that. And I got Rumble Land.
There's a deeper well of board game nerddom here on that story about like sneaking into a toy fair with a press pass.
Yeah.
So I had just done those 3 posts on a random blog of a friend's. I wound up messaging that there was a post from MTV on Twitter in like 2010. It said, we're starting MTV Geek. It's a new, vertical stack of blog and video and all that. And they said, we're going to do comics and movies and all that. And I just direct messaged the account and I said, well, what about board games? Like I have a couple articles I wrote. Do you want somebody? And they just wrote me back. They're like, yeah, sure. Can you come to the office next week?
What? I've been trying to get into MTV offices for years.
All you had to do is bring a board game up.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so, I took them up on it. It was just a nights and weekends thing for several years. They, freelance, pay you by the post. But it was really cool. I wound up writing for Wired as well, doing like electronics reviews. And it was fun for a while. People would send you free products to review and that whole thing. It was like pre-influencer internet where you're actually doing written content and writing these reviews.
Rather than just video reviews.
Yeah. And through that, I wound up going to a lot of trade shows and conventions, and you get to know the same people at them. It's a whole group, social group. And when I kind of burnt out on the whole writing thing after about 4 years, I still wanted to go to those events. So I kind of pivoted into running the events themselves and approached the people who do that. So now that has ballooned into its whole side career that, again, I do nights and weekends above and beyond the day job, which is running gaming conventions.
And I got to say, I looked at the website. Matt, there's a ton of people at these things.
It's tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, and it's always in, I don't know where I saw this one. Maybe it was Philly, but I don't know if you saw the pictures of this thing, but it's massive amount of people playing these things.
Yeah.
And does everybody bring their own thing? Do you supply the games? Or like, how's this all take place?
Both. We've got a 3,000 game library people can borrow from, but there's also hundreds of companies there who are selling their games. So a lot of people just show up and buy a bunch of brand new stuff, open it and play it right there. And there's multiple conventions. Like the one that you mentioned in Philly is the big one. That's what I spend most of my
Philly,
side
of course.
job
It's the
time
best
on.
city.
Exactly.
It's the best city out there. Thank you.
It's a brand of conventions called PAX, which have been around for about 20 years, and they're all video game mostly. But they always had a board game component to it, and they always knew they needed some sort of contract specialist to help them reach out to the board game marketplace. So since I had that kind of industry experience being a reviewer, I knew a lot of the companies already. They had a board game component of their conventions that were in Seattle, Boston, and San Antonio. And when they decided they were going to create one in Philly that was purely like tabletop gaming, no video gaming at all, they called in the 3 managers for the conventions for those cities, and I was doing the Boston one, just a tiny little area in the part of a much bigger video game convention. And they said, well, which one of you wants to run the Philly show? It's going to be huge. And the other two just pointed at me like, we want nothing to do with this. Like, he's in New Jersey. He's close to it. He's got industry experience. Just let him do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
it's
you
been an
advertised
amazing
it, and then people just showed up.
Yeah. Some people knew the brand already from the video game conventions, and they just kind of said, oh, well, we like to play board games and role-playing games too, so let's try it out.
And so you're just providing a flat surface for them to bring their games, they play, and they can play anybody that they want to play.
I mean, for the most part, there's about 10,000 seats. People can just
I've seen
play.
it.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it's massive. It is like convention halls.
yeah.
halls.
There's theaters.
What's
There's
our press pass for that?
presentations.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
those
can we
sorts
get
of
in for
things.
this?
People paint little models. So there's, a 100-seat area. You just walk up and paint a little character. So there's more to it than just playing the games. It's just kind of like a festival vibe.
That's so cool.
No, we actually have, it's not tabletop games, but we have Nerd Street here on campus now. We're doing more of the sort of what do they call that, where the kids are playing each other? The e-games.
Okay.
So we're doing that here now. So you might want to check that out before you take out of Dodge here. It's right down the street.
Yeah, give it a look.
Yeah. This is crazy though. This convention you have to take a look at.
Okay. I'll be Googling.
And do you have exhibitors that come through to sell when they sell these games? They're paying for their space to come in and they.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big elaborate booths. Probably 300 something companies that will travel around the world to exhibit there.
And so when is the next PAX?
It's December 6th to 8th.
Wow. You'll be there?
We got to write it down, Jess. I mean, you can't say no to this, right?
Part of that week I'll be in Disney, so it'll be a lot. Disney, then a gaming convention. I'll just be like sleeping on the floor.
You'll be totally interested in
it.
Yeah, we just kind of struck gold there. There's a lot of other events for this, but the big ones are in, Illinois and Ohio. And I think people didn't realize there's 40% of the country right in the Northeast, and maybe some cultural elitism to the Northeast. I don't want to go to Ohio or Illinois. So as soon as one popped up in a major Northeast city, you could just hop on Amtrak and reach 40% of the country. It just took off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, our podcast is big in those states, so we can't really say much about those states. We enjoy them as well. They're lovely people, but that's about it. Yeah.
How do you find time to make this all happen? Have so many jobs. I mean, does it all go back to you feeling very like money conscious as a kid, and it's like you just like to build upon your things? Is everything for fun? Like, how do you do it all?
It's definitely more for fun than the money. In my day job life with the Navy, they have flexible scheduling. So I work an extra long day and then have every other Friday off,
Nice.
which I think is what gave me the urge to say, well, what do I do with this bonus day?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I started writing. That's why I started volunteering at game conventions.
Some people would just take a rest.
Maybe I should have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should, but I feel like that says a lot about you that you had an extra day and decided to do something really productive with it.
I'll say that in the career, all of the best successes I've had in their career were things that I learned outside and brought them back in. And I'll even bring it back to Rowan. Like when I got laughed at for not doing calculus in my day job, the things I did in my early career that got me those early promotions were because I learned things from going and running student government and going and running Greek life. I learned a lot about communication and interacting with people and how to be organized, things they don't teach you in engineering class. But I brought that to an engineering world. And then later I started learning how to become a writer. And there's really not a lot of engineers who can write. So that's how I got into, write research proposals and got another promotion out of that. So it really worked out that doing other things in life folded back into, my core day job, which I'm going to be at for 30 plus years, and made that a success rather than distracting from it.
So Jess.
Yes.
Board games.
Okay. We talked about this a little bit off air.
What's your favorite?
I don't know.
I was really shocked by Matt because I really was gunning for like standard things. I'm like, he's going to say Clue. He's going to say Clue. He's going to say Clue. And he didn't do it. You know what I mean?
I'm not really like a board game gal.
Yeah.
I will play if somebody else really knows the rules and can teach me, but I don't really like to read the instructions. I find that very difficult. But I mean, I would say like, I always like playing Monopoly. I thought that was fun. Like growing up, that was like the board game we played. But other than that, I'm not like a board game girl. What about you?
So Monopoly would have been so I loved Clue.
Okay.
Right. But Monopoly was my favorite because you could charge people. They got on your, they built
On your
properties,
property.
but it takes so long to play that game.
It
so
does.
eventually-
You just got to flip the board and
Yeah,
play. I win.
it goes out. It's like risk too. No, that was cool though. Like I didn't see that side of him coming out on that, but that was great to hear him sort of involved in that and all the other activities where he was student government.
Yeah.
We talked off air where he said he saw the 10-year, plan here for the university, many, many moons ago and is still surprised about all that's happened here on campus. So that was kind of cool.
He also mentioned that he was on the crew that interviewed President Hushman when he was interviewing for the provost job.
Yeah.
So really fun to kind of tap into all of those connections that he has here. And maybe we'll see Matt's daughter here. We're hoping for her to make her way here. But Matt, really, what a good story. Got his job.
What we'll do is we'll get Nicole on
Okay.
and have her tell the side of the story. See how,
That would be great.
right?
Yeah. I mean, those Prof Sweethearts interviews did us really well.
They did actually. We won awards for that stuff. Just saying.
We're kind of a big deal.
Well, thanks, Matt, for joining us today. And check us out on another edition of Beyond the Brown and Gold.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.